to the Dunkelgrün podcast. This is a podcast about knitting and a lot of other crafty things that are happening in my life. My name is Anna and I'm coming to you from Zurich in Switzerland. Today is Sunday, the 4th of February, and it is a very special day because it marks my first podcast anniversary. It has been pretty much a year ago on the 5th of February, which was also a Sunday in 2017, when I have released my first video. And since then this has been just a wonderful journey of getting to know so many amazing people, having wonderful conversations, getting inspired, and I don't regret it for a single second. It's a pleasure to be doing this, and I want to thank all of you for being here and for supporting me. It really means a whole lot to me. So today, for this anniversary episode, I have quite a nice program for you. I have a lot of different things to show you, and I hope you're going to enjoy it. I also wanted to say a warm welcome to all new subscribers. Since my last episode, there have been so many new people subscribing to the podcast, which made me so happy. Thank you so much. In my last podcast episode, I talked a bit about the science behind superwash yarns because I am a chemist by training. I have a PhD in chemistry, and so I like to throw in some scientific bits here and there into my podcast episodes. And last episode, the topic was superwash or non-superwash yarns, and the response to that was just huge. And it was really amazing how many of you liked that content and were interested in this kind of subject. And yeah, I am really happy that so many of you are concerned about environmental topics. It is great. And also today we are going to have a little bit of a follow-up on that topic. I have received a couple of questions on the subject and I'm going to answer them. But first we are going to start with knitting. And I have two finished objects for you today. My first finished project, if you have seen the last episode, you're probably not surprised. These are the Selbu mittens by Skeindeer, who is, I'm sure many of you will know her. She is a wonderful podcaster and the queen of colorwork mitten designs. And I think it's really special about her that she takes these really traditional Norwegian mittens and transforms them into modern designs. So they have all the traditional elements, but she makes them look super special and modern. And I have used Shetland yarn for this, the Jamieson's Shetland Heather, which is an Aran weight yarn. And I really like them. They turned out super beautiful. The dark blue colorway is North Sea and the white is Ivory. I have talked about this yarn quite a lot in recent episodes because I really love this yarn. It's awesome. It's so sturdy and natural, but also really soft, and I really like it. So these are the mittens. I have talked about last week how they are a little bit too big on me, which you can't see now. If I pull the cuff all the way back here, almost to my elbow, then it does not look so big, and actually they fit quite well. But the thing is, when I wear a coat, then I cannot really pull the cuff so far back, so they sit a bit more at the front, and then there is a little bit of extra. So you can see my hand is maybe a little bit too small for these mittens. There is an option to make them smaller, which is going down in gauge, and I have actually planned to do that. My colorwork swatch for this project, for this I used, I think, 4.5mm needles, and then I received exactly the gauge recommended in the pattern, but I went down a needle size to 4mm so that I would achieve a smaller mitten, but somehow I managed to knit to the same size with both needle sizes, and they turned out the large or the normal standard size anyways. But I think that's just fine. I still love to wear them, and if I won't wear them so much, I will just make myself a new pair, and these will go to my boyfriend. This year there have been so many people talking about knitting mittens, and I think the mittens have become the new socks for people, colorwork mittens. And I can totally understand why that is, because they are a really quick and nice project, just like socks. And also they have like the standard construction like a sock, but you have all the interest with the color work, and you can kind of create so many different kinds of patterns. Once you have such a pattern, you could also just draw up your own color work pattern and adjust the mittens to whatever your idea is. So I think I totally understand that. For me, they are not as mindless as socks, so it took me quite a while in the end to finish that, because I started them in my Christmas holidays where I had time and muse to knit. And then when I started working again in the evenings, I was often a bit too tired to look at the chart. And especially because I cannot do anything else. I have to look at the chart for every round, because every round it's different. And I mean, you can read your knitting, but sometimes I just want to make sure that I actually do it the way that the chart intends you to do it. So for me it was a lot less mindless for sure than knitting socks. You need to be able to look at the chart for every round that you do. All in all, a very, very beautiful pattern, a very nice result, and I really recommend it. My next finished project is a little baby hat, which I have just knit up in one afternoon. I have cast this on yesterday afternoon and finished it in the evening. It's the Aviatrix hat by Justine Turner, and I have talked about this hat in a previous episode on this podcast because I made it before. And the friend who I made it for, she asked me if I could make another one because she wants to gift it to a friend of hers who also recently got a baby, and she loved this hat so much on her baby that she wanted to use it as a gift. So she asked for a brown color and I dyed the yarn for it. So this is the yarn I have dyed. I used the organic merino DK yarn, which I like to use, and this is one of those yarns that has been superwash treated with the EXP process, which is an environmentally friendly variant of superwash treatment. This yarn is incredibly soft and it gives such a nice stitch definition, and it does not feel like superwash yarn. It feels like natural wool, but it's incredibly soft because it's super fine merino. And this has not been blocked yet. I just finished it yesterday evening, as I said. And yeah. Oh yeah, maybe this I-cord bobble here. Can I focus on that? Not bobble, this I-cord string, sorry, is not really in the pattern. The pattern tells you to knit a strap in garter stitch over 5 stitches, but I just did this decrease of the ear flap down to only 3 stitches and then knit an I-cord over this because I like what kind of strap this makes. And I heard that this is a really convenient hat for babies because you can tie it up and it stays in place, and it's also very comfortable because of this shape. It really covers the baby's ears. It's a very anatomically correct shape for a baby's hat, I have heard. I don't have a baby myself, I never had so far, so I just forward the recommendation of my friend. And yeah, I love the pattern. It's written for 3 different yarn weights, I think DK, worsted and Aran maybe, or sport, I don't know. 3 different yarn weights, and there are many different stitch counts for you to cast on, so you can make this I think even up to for a 3-year-old. It's very customizable pattern and I very much recommend it as well. Speaking of dyeing yarn for your own projects, those of you who know me maybe have noticed already, I really like to dye yarn specifically for projects that I knit. I mean, I did not write down any formula for that. This does not have a colorway name or anything. I just wanted to have a caramelly brown yarn with a soft variegation of different shades, and so I dyed it. And if you like to do this as well, or if you would like to start doing this, we currently have a knit along in my Ravelry group, which is co-hosted by myself and the wonderful Marina, Marina Toys on Instagram, and she has the Strawberry Patches podcast. We are co-hosting a cal where you can enter your projects out of self-dyed yarn, or we also accompany you along the journey of dyeing yarn for your own project. So if you're interested in that, head on over to Ravelry. It's the Dunkelgrün group on Ravelry, and join our knit along. We have extended it, I think, to the end of March, the deadline. And we might extend it even further, because I think it's such a nice idea and it gives you so much to work with. Because if you want to have a certain color, you have a color in your mind, but you cannot find it anywhere, you can just dye it up for yourself and have the color you want. So I think it's a really nice thing that I want to encourage everyone to do. And it's not hard, it's really easy. With this, we get to the works in progress. I have a couple of works in progress this time. One is living in this wonderful project bag by So Cozy Knits with a cute little felted heart here, needle felted heart by Behind the Sheep. And in here is just a hat that I have cast on for the birthday of my brother. And the birthday was 2 days ago, so I'm a bad sister, but I'm still going to finish it and send it to him in the mail. This hat I have knit for him before, and I have knitted for him in exactly the same yarn and with exactly the same stitch count, but unfortunately he lost it. It has been a very long time ago. It was 5 years ago that I gave him this hat, and he wore it for quite a long time, so I'm not so sad about it that he lost it. It happens sometimes, and he is absolutely a person that is worth to knit for because he really appreciates it, and he told me several times already that he really misses this hat. So you might notice already that there are several strands of yarn hanging down from here, actually just 2. This is a drops design by the garnstudio drops website from Norway, and the yarn is also their yarn. So this is their Fabel sock yarn, and I am knitting it out of 2 strands. As I said, the other strand is their Alpaca yarn, and they are both fingering weights, and held together they make a DK weight, and then the pattern is a 3x3 rib. And I really like the effect that these 2 yarns held together produce, because you kind of have the sturdiness of the sock yarn, which has 25% nylon in it, I think, and you have at the same time this wonderful, wonderful softness of this alpaca yarn. This alpaca yarn is one of the softest yarns I have ever touched. It's so fluffy and light and wonderful. It's really nice. And my brother likes it because he says it's super warm with the alpaca in it, but it's not so thick and heavy. He doesn't like to have a thick hat. And also this rib pattern makes it really nice because it stretches out and adjusts to your head and sits snugly. I don't like that so much in my kind of hats. I prefer a looser fit, but my brother really likes to have a lot of negative ease, and I think many men actually do, or people with short hair who don't mind their hair to get messy from wearing a hat. So this colorway that I'm using here for the sock yarn is actually discontinued. I bought this 5 years ago when I made him the first hat, and I bought 2 balls of it and only used 1, and the second ball has been sitting in my stash forever, and at that time I was not a sock knitter yet, so it didn't come to my mind to make socks out of it. And so now I wanted to make it for him again, and I realized this yarn was discontinued. The colorway, the yarn itself is still available, but exactly this colorway, which has some creams and browns and grays in it, was not available anymore. And then I remembered maybe I still have a skein of that, and I had. So I'm very happy to replicate a hat that I made 5 years ago for my brother. Oh, and the pattern doesn't really have a name, I think, and also the yarns have only colorway, not names but numbers, so I will link to those in the show notes, which you can, by the way, find at dunkelgrun.com, and there is a link to this place in the bar below the video. Another work in progress, which I have put a little work into, is a almost hibernating sock project. I have started this pair of socks last year at the end of September. And I don't really know why it's taking me so long to knit this pair of socks. The yarn is my own hand dyed. It's another yarn that I dyed specifically for a project, because this is the favorite color of my sister's boyfriend. It's neon green, and this is kind of a fluorescent green that glows in UV light. I have talked about this in a previous episode. I will write here which episode that was. And yeah, I am knitting them toe up, and I'm doing a heel flap and gusset toe up. So that means when you reach a certain length, you will have to start increasing. And if you look here, you can see those gusset increases. So on this sock, I'm finished with the gusset increases, and I also did the turn, which is some short rows here on the bottom side. And now it's time to knit the heel flap, which you knit back and forth, and then you knit together the edges of the heel flap with the stitches, with the live stitches on the needles. It's a very funny, I like to knit the heel flap, but I don't like to do these gusset increases, especially on this large sock. I forgot how many stitches it is, I think 64 stitches, and I had to make it really long because he has huge feet, so this is, I think, the largest sock that I have ever knit probably. And maybe that's also one of the reasons why it's taking me so long. And in the beginning I was knitting them 2 at a time, so I also have a second one that is about here. And then I realized I just don't enjoy knitting them 2 at a time, and I separated them to 1 sock at a time. And I have also knitted a little bit on this in class, because at the moment I am doing a class in library and information science every Friday, and so I have, in a very boring lesson, I took this with me and knit on it. And then it's also much easier if you have just 1 sock and not the 2, and have to manage the tangling stuff and everything, because you don't want to raise so much attention. You raise already enough attention if you knit on a neon green socks. I got a couple of comments about that, and I'm usually a bit of a shy knitter. I don't want to have people come up to me and ask, oh, what are you doing? Are you knitting? I don't really like that, so I prefer sometimes to knit in secret in public. My next work in progress is my favorite one. My favorite one, and the one that I put most work in. It lives in my Lamiprojects project bag with this wonderful leaf print on it. This is an indigo dyed and printed fabric. And in here lives, oh, can I take it out? In here lives my first yoked sweater. This is the Arboreal sweater by Jennifer Steingass, and yeah, I'm sure many of you have seen this stuff before. She is the queen of yoke designs at the moment. She designs amazing yokes for colorwork yoked sweaters, and this is the Arboreal, and it has this wonderful leaf pattern. I have just finished the yoke and separated for the sleeves and the body, and yeah, I really love it. I tried it on already, it fits me pretty well. I am knitting it at a slightly larger gauge than the pattern, and that's why I went for the smallest size. So yeah, I kind of did this calculation of my bust measurement and the gauge to see which size would actually end up with my bust measurement and the intended ease, and so I went for the smallest size because I have a little larger gauge, and then I will be maybe at the size of the second smallest size or so. And I really love it. The yarn is the Let Lopi, which is a yarn from Iceland, and I have never knit with it before. I have just ordered it from a shop here in Switzerland, which is islandwolle.ch, and she imports all kinds of textiles, also finished sweaters and stuff like that from Iceland, and she also carries this yarn, and I really like it. It is for sure the most scratchy yarn that I have ever knit with. It's very rough, but I really like the feel of it, and I have the feeling that when you can get used to a little rougher wool on your skin, this is just amazing to wear, because it's for sure super warm, it's super light, and supposed to be water resistant. Probably this sweater will live forever. The 2 colors that I'm using are this rust color is 9427 and the beige color is 0086. And I have actually seen there is one project on Ravelry which has exactly the same colors, and it's even the picture is even featured on the pattern page. So I am knitting exactly the same sweater as, I forgot what her Ravelry name was. But I really like the color combination and I'm very looking forward to having this sweater. Maybe I should tell you why I have decided to just cast on a sweater out of the blue. I am going to Edinburgh Yarn Festival in March, and then I have thought about that I really need a festival sweater, or not really, but it would be nice to have a festival sweater. And so I looked at which kind of patterns I could make, because I thought it's better to use like a thick yarn. This is Aran weight yarn, so that I am really able to finish it until March. And then I came across the Arboreal, which was already in my favorites and on my to knit list. And yeah, I really liked it. It's so much fun to knit this yoke. It's going so well now. My color work is going so well because I'm using my two hands to hold the two colors, and it's almost going automatic already. I can knit English style and continental style now, and this makes me very happy. So here you can see also the floats on the wrong side, which have become quite even. I'm very pleased with that. Yeah, and you can also see that the yarn has a bit of a halo. You have this fuzz sticking out of the fabric, which is really charming. It makes it look very natural and rustic. My Let Look Be Arboreal sweater. You might notice I am not talking too much about the needle sizes I'm using for the different projects. If you're interested in the needle sizes and more technical details, you can check out my show notes where I either include the needle sizes or I link to my Ravelry project page where you can find all this technical information. And finally, in my work in progress section, I have a work in progress which is actually not really on the needles. I am still in the swatching phase and I will have to do some calculations before I can cast on. And this is out of Lana Rara. And Lana Rara is a Swiss yarn which consists of, I think, 66% or 2/3 of it are Swiss rare sheep breeds, and then 1/3 of it is fine merino wool to make it a bit softer. And this is just a very, very wonderful natural yarn. I have here two colors, the olive green and the natural color. I have also a couple more colors in my stash, the blue and it's like a smoke blue and a burgundy. And I have had this yarn in my stash for quite a while, for more than a year already, and I have decided that it's time to make something out of it. So I have knitted a little swatch. First, just a plain stockinette swatch to test the needle size and the gauge. I think this was 4 millimeters. I made 4 knots here, so that means 4 millimeters. Sometimes it also means US size 4. Yeah, and then I did something exciting because I had this idea for a colorwork sweater out of these two colors that I have just shown you, and so I just swatched the colorwork, and this is how it looks. I have actually seen a bag when I was on a train commuting. I saw a lady who had a bag with a textured pattern on it. It was not even two colors, it was just some kind of texture differences that made this geometric pattern, which is kind of a chevron, but also a checkerboard. You see what I mean? It has this kind of shifted chevron lines. And I was intrigued and I was thinking this would make some really cool color work. And I was thinking of my Lana Rara, and so I just knit this little swatch. And what I would like to make is a sweater with this kind of pattern included. I am not really sure yet how, if I would only make it here at the top or if I would make it a full sweater like this. I think this would be a bit of a challenge to calculate, but I will do it in some way or another. And it will probably take me a little more time because, you know, it takes time to do this kind of calculations and see where you can integrate such a pattern. And maybe I will also have to adjust the stitch count of the pattern a bit. And this swatch is also special in a different way because it is actually my first stick. I have knitted in the round and then I just cut it up, and here is the stick or the cut edge. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was not even that crazy as I expected it. My boyfriend was like, "What? You're going to cut this now?" And I was like, "Yeah, I have seen so many people doing it. I'm not even scared of it anymore. Everyone says it's easy, and yeah, it is easy. And as everyone says, if you use a sticky non-superwash yarn, this yarn does not go anywhere. You just cut it open, it just stays where it is, no problem." Here is the tag of Lana Rara that is attached to my swatch. This is the tag, and yeah, here is the other side. This Pro Specie Rara label is a label here in Switzerland which is concerned with the conservation of endangered species like plants and animals, also plants, not only animals. So yeah, this is my little swatch. And yeah, I wanted to talk about something else in this context. Melissa from Knitting the Stash, who has the Knitting the Stash podcast and is Knitting the Stash on Instagram, she is currently hosting a make-along, a remake-along kind of, where you are encouraged to search a sweater in your wardrobe and replicate it. So let's say you have a commercial sweater which you really like and you love the fit of it and you would like to knit something similar. And she is going to publish a couple of tutorial videos on how to approach such a project. And I think this might also be quite useful for the kind of project that I'm doing here, trying to design a sweater with a colorwork pattern in it. Because I don't think this is going to be a yoke, which is the easiest way to put colorwork into a sweater. I think it's going to be more of a satin sleeve style thing. Or drop sleeve, maybe drop sleeve. But I think it's gonna be a rectangular thing because the whole pattern is a bit more of a rectangular kind of geometric pattern and not really a round shape kind of thing. So yeah, I am probably going to follow along with Melissa's, for sure with Melissa's videos, because she's an excellent teacher and makes awesome videos about all different kinds of fibery topics. And I'm really looking forward to incorporating that into this crazy design process, which I have no experience with. So I have already talked about the self-dyed knit-along that we are currently having in our Ravelry group, and where we are encouraging people to dye yarn for their own projects. And I have also dyed some yarn for a project recently, and this is also two non-reproducible out of the blue dyed with acid dyes. I used Jacquard acid dyes and only the primaries. Here we have the lovely turquoise, where you can see there are also some slight purplish hues, and in the purple there are some more bluish hues and some more reddish purples. I am really liking these two skeins, and I dyed them to match together because I want to knit a Toph hat out of them. Let me put a picture of the Toph hat here, which is a pattern by Wormhead. She is an awesome hat designer, very famous for her crazy hat designs, and this design is part of a collection which is the Elemental Hats collection, and I really love each and every single hat in this collection, especially because they are named after characters in the Avatar series, which I love. This is just an amazing, cute little cartoon series with a very beautiful story, and so I want to make the Toph hat out of these two colors. And now you're going to say, Anna, these are not your colors, what are you doing? I don't plan to make the Toph hat for myself. I want to make it for a little girl who is the daughter of a friend of mine, and he gave me something pretty amazing, which I'm just going to show you in a minute. And this is gonna be the thank you for him in exchange for the things he gave to me. So yes. Also, this is my organic merino decay, which, by the way, I have decided I will include as a price for our self-dyed knit along. I will include a skein of undyed or maybe 2 or 3 skeins of undyed organic merino DK as a prize for the winner of our knit along. So now that you have gotten curious what my friend might have given to me so that he deserves such an amazing hand-dyed hat from me, my friend has a wood turning bench, I think it's called, and he has started wood turning I think a couple of months ago or maybe last year at some point. And he was asking me how to make a drop spindle, and then I sent him some pictures of drop spindles, and I told him the dimensions of some of the drop spindles that I liked and the weights, and then he just came up with this. So here the whorl is olive wood, and the stick is, the shaft I think is acacia, and he smoked it with ammonia. Isn't that pretty? The thing is, since my friend has never made a drop spindle before, he had some problems fitting the stick with the whorl, and he said he was not happy with it at all, so he just sent it to me and said I shall try to spin with it. And I know why he was not so happy, because it does not spin perfectly. It does not spin as well as other spindles. It has the tendency to stop a bit. But nonetheless, it is possible to spin with it. As you can see, all this fiber that is on it, I have spun, and I really like it. It's so beautiful. But because he was not happy with that it didn't work so well, he was challenged to make another one. I think it's also not even going to be the last one that he made. So he made me another one that is a little bit heavier, and it has an even more crazy pattern on the wood here. Can you see that? It's just wonderful. I love this pattern. And this one has been finished with a different kind of oil, so it's a bit more matte. And yeah, it's just beautiful. For the fact that he has never made a spindle before, I am really impressed with his talent of making these spindles. And this one works. This one works really well. It spins quite fast, and I really like it. And then he made another thing for me, because after he had finished the spindle, he was like, what else can you use as a knitter? And I was like, maybe a yarn bowl. And I was like, what is a yarn bowl? And I also sent him some links to places with yarn bowls. I actually didn't own a yarn bowl before. So he got what I meant, and he just made one. And this is it. And this, guys, I am so happy with this yarn bowl. This is so beautiful and so functional, and look at how cool this cutout is here and how it is matching with the patterning of the wood. It's just so beautiful. And here you can put your cake inside, and then you can like here you can take the cake, pull it through the hole, and then you can just easily pull it off, and the yarn, the cake is turning inside of the bowl. It's really, really beautiful, and I'm super happy with it. And yeah, I have posted his products on Instagram, and many people have responded and started following him, which I think made him extremely happy. So also from me, a huge thank you to you all who have started following him and commented on his wonderful pictures. I think he does not plan to have a shop anytime soon, because he is quite a busy guy. He has 2 jobs and a little daughter, and so I think you have to be lucky to get something from him. But he loves to receive messages, and I think occasionally he also takes some custom orders for products. I will include his Instagram name in the show notes so you can find him. So as we are on the subject of spinning, I have even some more spinning to show you. I have been quite productive this couple of weeks. I have been talking about this already last episode. I am spinning yarn for a sweater, which this is just plain oatmeal colored BFL, which I am spinning for the Telja sweater by Jennifer Steingass, which is another wonderful yoke design by Jennifer Steingass. And this is how much I had last episode, and this last couple of weeks I have spun this much more, and I still have a huge bump to go. I don't think I actually need all of that for the sweater, but it's better to have a little reserve than running out of yarn, right? So yeah, I am enjoying to just sit down and spin a bit in the evenings. It's a very meditative project because it's all the same color, and some of you might say it's not exciting enough, but it's when your brain is super tired and you had a long day of work, it's just perfect. You just sit and spin and you feel like you're almost falling asleep while you're spinning. It's wonderful. I love it. On the subject of this project, very recently, a dear friend of mine who I know from Instagram and from her comments to my podcast, Nina, has started her podcast, and this is the Fox and the Sheep podcast. And why this is related to this project is because she has completely independently of me started with the same kind of idea. She has started to spin natural colored yarn, natural colored fiber for making yarn for exactly the same sweater, the Telja sweater. And this cannot be just a coincidence, so we are going to probably have some cal going on together as soon as we have finished spinning our load of fiber. I am glad that Nina is also not the most fast spinner in the world, so we are probably going to take some time until we are ready to cast on our Telja sweaters. And Nina is a very, very wonderful creative person. If you don't know her, you really have to check her out. She is a natural dyer, sells her naturally dyed yarns on Etsy. She has just designed her first colorwork mitten pattern, and she carves beautiful wooden tools for knitting, which are nostepinnes. I don't know exactly how you pronounce it in English. These are those sticks that you can use to wind your own cakes or balls of yarn for knitting. And she carves them with little animal faces at the top. Maybe I can put a picture of one of them here. I'm sure she wouldn't mind. And they're just gorgeous. So head on over to her podcast to watch her talking about those and check out her Etsy shop. So this was all of my crafty projects, I think, that I had to show you today. I have a couple of questions that I received on the subject of non-superwash or eco-superwash yarns. So last week we have talked about what is the difference between a non-superwash and a superwash yarn, and the fact that the scales on the fiber are causing wool to felt, and this is what superwash processes try to avoid. So the standard one is just kind of shaving off the scales chemically so that the yarn surface is not as it is in nature anymore. And then there are some alternative processes which make these scales softer without completely damaging them. And the question that several people have asked and that I have had several discussions about is, where can we find brands and yarns that have been superwash treated but with the eco process, which is also called the EXP process. And I tried to find a couple of brands. I am not going to talk about them now and here. I tried to do some research and I found out some very crazy things, like that there is a very big company which is called the Coats Group, and this is based in the UK, and they own a smaller division which is called MEZ or Metz Crafts, and this Metz Crafts company actually owns a lot of other brands. They own Rowan, they own Schachenmayr, they own Red Heart, and a lot of other brands belong to this company. And I would have never guessed that Red Heart and Rowan, which are such completely different philosophies in a way, the way they present themselves, they actually belong to exactly the same large company. This was a bit shocking to me and made me realize that I don't really want to support such large companies. I want to maybe large companies which put an effort into eco-friendly production, and small companies who already struggle to survive, that need our support and who put a lot of love and goodwill into their products. This is the kind of things I want to support. And I know that there are many people out there who are thinking the same way and who are willing or who are searching for places to buy such yarns. And that's why I have decided I will create a page in my Ravelry group where we can collect sources for these kinds of yarns. And I have also created a thread where you can go. I will link the thread also in the show notes. You can go if you know about a shop or you own a yarn brand that has either non-superwash yarn or eco-friendly yarn. You can eco-friendly superwash yarn. You can post that there. I have written some rules also that we know which countries and everything. And I will make a collection in a page in my Ravelry group as a source of information to which we can go back to and find new brands that we might have not known about, or small producers, small indie dyers who offer such yarns. And the other question that I have received was, what actually determines the softness of the yarn? The question about the softness of wool has been answered, I think, already on a couple of other podcasts, and it has to do with the micron count of the fiber. So micron is actually just another word for a micrometer, and a micrometer is 10 to the minus 6 meters, or a thousandth of a millimeter. So a really small size, which we cannot really see by eye. 1 micrometer we cannot really see by eye. And the size of fibers, the diameter of a fiber, is typically on the order of magnitude of several microns or micrometers. The smaller the diameter of the fiber is, the softer it is, and the larger the diameter is, the coarser and scratchy it will be. So you can imagine that in analogy to some kind of sandpaper which you would use to sand wood. If you have coarse, large grains on it, it is coarse and you feel more friction, as to when there are very small grains on it, it gets softer and you feel less friction. And that's exactly the same principle with the wool or any other kinds of fibers. So a human hair has about 50 micrometers, depending on the person, of course. There are thicker hairs and thinner hairs. And wool fiber is typically, if it is below 22 micrometers, it is considered soft. Very, very fine wools can have counts as low as 14 microns, which is also the range where you would usually find cashmere. Coarse fibers will have more than 30 micrometers. So now the next question is, what determines the micrometer count of a specific yarn that I buy or a specific sheep? So many people, I think, believe that it's just a sheep breed. So they believe Polworth has a certain kind of micrometer count and Merino has another kind of micrometer count. This is wrong. It is not just a sheep breed. The sheep breed gives you a tendency for a range of micrometers. So I don't know, a Gotland sheep, which is prone to have more coarse fibers, you will probably not find a Gotland sheep that has a 16 micrometer count. I might be wrong on that, I'm just saying something here. But it's not the breed that is literally linked to a certain micrometer count. It depends on many other factors. The individual genetics of the animals, so there are certain animals which just have the genetics to have softer fibers, just like in one family many people are blonde or red-haired, such like this. There are sheep families where the fibers are coarser or softer. That's why breeders try to collect animals with softer fibers or certain properties and let them breed with each other to preserve those properties. And on the other hand, it's also the age. So if you have a lamb, of course it has a lot softer fibers than if you have an older sheep. And the third thing that influences the micron count of the wool of an individual sheep is the environment where it lives. So I think generally the warmer the climate is, the softer the fibers are going to be, and the colder the climate is, the coarser the fibers are going to be. So a merino sheep from Germany will always have coarser fibers than a merino sheep from Spain, Portugal or Australia, because there the climate and the weather is warmer and the sheep tend to grow softer fleeces. So these, I think, are the main influencers on the softness of fibers. There might be more, and I'm happy to receive comments on this subject and corrections. So I hope this was useful to those of you who asked the question. And I had also another question, which I'm not going to answer today because the episode is already pretty long. And this question was about why you shouldn't use fabric softener on wool. There are many people who tell you that you shouldn't use fabric softener, and the question was about what actually goes on with the fabric softener and why shouldn't you use it. And I'm going to talk about this in a future episode. On the subject of non-superwash wool, I would like to show you a wonderful pattern collection that has just come out. And this is the Socks 2018 publication, which was published by Making Stories, which is a company, a publishing company, so to say, by Hannah-Lisa Haferkamp and Verena Kors, who are two lovely ladies from Berlin in Germany. And they have just published their first digital publication, which is an ebook on Ravelry, and it's called Socks 2018. I'll put a picture here. And this is a collection of 7 sock patterns, which are all using non-superwash and all natural sock yarns. So there is no nylon and no superwash wool in the sock yarns. And the pattern is, I think it's about 20 euros, the pattern book, and this is including 7 sock patterns, so the price is just for the pattern, it's already really good. And in the booklet there are also portraits of the designers and the yarn brands, and there is even a very handy guide on how to knit socks and how to make the socks fit you, and notes on the gauge, on how to block them. So a really valuable resource for people who haven't knit socks before. I have a little guest coming. Now we have a little guest here who wants to come in but not stay. Anyways, say hi, Lila. This was my little cat, Lila. So as I said, the Socks 2018 collection is a wonderful pattern book for new and experienced sock knitters, and it's also a great resource for you if you want to find some natural sock yarns to make your socks from. So go check it out. We are approaching the end of my podcast anniversary episode, and of course we have something to celebrate, and that means giveaway time. So first of all, there has been a giveaway for the 3,000 subscribers in the last episode, but unfortunately the winner did not get in touch with me, so I went ahead and drew a new winner. And the new winner was post number 39, who is the Ravelry member efreckmann, and this is Eva from Glasgow. That is super exciting. Eva, if you are watching this, please get in touch with me. I will send you your prize. It was a project bag by Lamiprojects and a skein of yarn dyed by Alfinette from Portugal. I put a picture here in case you don't remember. Please get in touch with me, send me your address, or maybe if you're going to EYF, we could even meet up there and I could give it to you in person, because since you're from Glasgow, you might be going to Edinburgh. And now we are coming to the next giveaway, which is to celebrate our 1 year of podcast, of Dunkelgrün podcast. And also we have this month reached 4,000 subscribers, which is just amazing. Thank you to each and every one of you for subscribing and for commenting and for being here and for sharing your projects with me on the Ravelry group, and I really appreciate it. It is such a nice thing to be doing this. So in order to celebrate, I have 3 skeins of yarn for you this time, and they have been sent to me by Jess, who is a viewer of this podcast. She has also been participating in several knit-alongs already and test knits. She has recently opened her Etsy shop, which is HoosickHats, and here is her little card. This is her card. HoosickHats by Jess Corrow on Etsy, and she has also sent me these cute little stitch markers here, which are just wonderful. And the winners are going to get 3 skeins of yarn. So the first of the 3 prizes is this wonderful dark green, very vibrant lovely green color, very suitable for this podcast because it's a dunkelgrün podcast. And these are 250-gram skeins, and each has 178 yards, and it's 80% Highland wool, superwash Highland wool, and 20% nylon. And the colorway is called Patricia. So I think that is really gorgeous. That's one of the prizes. And the next prize is this wonderful skein of beautiful purples, blues and whites. And this is a classical skein of sock yarn, 75% superwash merino and 25% nylon. And the colorway is Ivy. And the last one, and this one I think is my favorite, is this one here. And here the colorway is the Queen of Hearts. And also this one is a standard sock yarn with 25% nylon. Look at these wonderful colors here with burgundies, gentle pinks, white spots and black and grey. It's just really cool. I think Jess has a very beautiful way of dyeing yarn, and I hope she's going to have a lot of success with her Etsy shop. So thank you very much, Jess, for sponsoring the prizes for this giveaway. I have not really decided yet what the prompt will be for this giveaway, but if you're watching this, head on over to the Ravelry group. There will be a thread where you can enter in order to win one of these 3 skeins. So this is the end of this episode, my friends. I feel like it has been a huge episode, maybe the longest one that I have ever made. Thank you very much for sticking around if you have made it this far, and I hope you are having a wonderful time. I hope to be able to podcast again next month, because at the moment I am still working and doing my classes in library and information science, so there is not a lot of time left for the hobby part of my life. But this is going to get better soon, in a couple of months, when I finish my further education, and I hope that you stick with my monthly kind of irregular schedule. So thank you everybody for tuning in today. I'm looking forward to your comments and messages, and if you have any questions, head on over to Ravelry and ask it in the questions tab that we have there. And I hope to see you in the next episode. Bye!